you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the most professional. But if you've got a story, and everybody's got a story, there's a book in everyone, there's a speech in everyone. And I think so often people just don't give themselves permission to put themselves out there. I always say my first 200 speeches were my worst. I was really, really bad. I was that kid who couldn't say an oral in school. I just say it in the break time in front of my teacher. Yeah, I was that petrified of speaking.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Thoughtonomy podcast, where we like to get you to think for yourself in a world that wants to do it for you. And we're here at the Tim Studios in Hillcrest. Fantastic setup, really professional space. And I'm very, very happy, thrilled in fact, to have with me Cindy Norcott. Welcome, Cindy.
Hi there, Grant. It's wonderful to be here.
So nice to have you here. And I think what we'll do is just start off. I mean, if there's somebody out there who's never heard of Cindy Norcott, maybe they're seeing this podcast from northern Alaska, or they've been hiding under a rock and they've never heard of Cindy. Cindy, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and what you're all about.
Grant, I suppose firstly I'm a wife and I'm a mom to two young ladies, both out of school, and have a bit of an empty nest at the moment. I own a recruitment company called Pro Talent, which turned 30 years old this March.
Wow, amazing.
So that's been a 30-year journey. I am the founder and chairperson of a charity, an NGO called the Robin Hood Foundation, which actually turns 20 in May next year. So it's also been a 2-decade journey of working in the community. One of my hobbies is public speaking, and I do quite a lot of motivational and inspirational speaking at conferences for companies. And that's something I do a lot of every week, pretty much. And I do a little bit of business coaching. And I am the author of 2 books. So that's
sure,
that's
quite
me.
a list, eh? That's quite a list. How does she do it?
Well, that's oh gosh, I suppose now's the time just to pick it up. I wrote a book called "How Does She Do It?" because everyone was always asking me, "How does she do it? How do you do it?" And I think it's a case of, I think for me the honest answer is not very well, and being okay with that. So I think being okay to not be a perfectionist, being okay to let others lead, and maintaining a sliver of a role in each area of my life. So doing literally the bare minimum, but doing it in the areas of my strengths.
Yeah. I think we always undersell ourselves somewhere along the line, and I think you're doing it a little bit here, if you don't mind me saying so. I mean, we've known each other for quite a number of years now, and largely business. I mean, we kind of mirrored each other in so many respects with speaking, and you were the one who actually got me to put pen to paper. I mean, how many years were you asking me, Grant, when are you going to write a book? And I think what we're going to do today is we'll speak a lot about the book. The process of writing the book, the vulnerabilities that come out when you write a book. So many people have said to me, and I'm sure you've had this, I've got a book to write. I'd love to write a book. Where do I start? How do I start? And it's not 1 or 2 people. It's lots of people.
It's loads.
And that's the amazing thing of doing something like this, is you do inspire others to do the same. But we'll get there. You and I, we generally always get to the end of the year, and I know you always, there were a couple of years where you said to me, next year I'm going to do less. Or next year, I mean, both of us were saying off camera, we at the end of the year now, it's November, and we finished, absolutely finished. So there must be a lot of people out there going, wow, I'm finished, I'm shattered, look how much Cindy does. How do you do it? How do you manage the energy?
I think each person has their own little cup of capacity, and some people have a little shot glass, and some have a beer glass, and some have a jug. So I think what I do maybe differently to a lot of other people is self-care is a first priority. So a lot of people will put in the self-care when they are feeling shattered. So this year, I started the year with a very, very strict intention of saying, you know what, this is a year where my business turns 30. If not now, then when? So this year has probably been one of my best years in terms of managing my energy. So I've started art lessons. You know, we talk about mindfulness. I've done meditation and things like that. But when you sit with a paintbrush for 3 hours and you don't think of anything else except getting the color right, it's amazing how refreshed you are after something like that. So I've realized that for me, that's been an incredibly good thing. I've also done a lot more exercise, a lot more time in nature this year. And I think that's been great. I've increased my rates, which means, a friend of mine coached me once and said, why don't you charge double and do half? And it was a bit of a like, oh yeah, why haven't I ever thought of that?
Yeah.
So it's been a year of maybe being a little bit more selective, maybe also being prepared to be unpopular.
Well,
so
just
not
from saying no more
saying
than you used
no,
to.
being maybe unavailable to people who want me to be available to them, being okay with not being at the forefront of everything, letting things go. So sort of saying I won't be at that. I know people might expect me there, but I'm actually saying no for me. So I think my encouragement to anyone who feels that they are shattered at the end of every year is maybe to do a bit of reflection and to say, where did I say a weak yes where I should have said a hell no? And I think so this year I've had a number of those where I really battle with that. And so, for instance, it'll be an email. Somebody will email me, would you like to speak for free at this event? One of those. And where I'm already doing so much through the church and through my charity and for causes that are dear to me. So I've already got those yeses packaged. There is no more room for other yeses. So where you sit with that sort of cognitive dissonance, the need to look after myself and the desire to be nice, but I have to be nice to me first. Yeah. I actually have to be nice to me so that I can do the jobs that I'm already assigned to well. Otherwise, all I'm doing is just giving everyone half efforts.
Yeah. And that is so powerful what you just said. And in one of the chapters of my book, I speak about this. I don't always get it right either. I think we struggle with that.
Yeah.
I mean, most human beings struggle with putting themselves first.
Yeah.
But it's a factor of energy.
Yeah.
So I always say time management's about prioritizing what's important to you. But energy management is about where you put yourself on the list of priorities. And it's not about saying no to everyone. It's about who do I say no to and where do I put myself first. Because if I'm not filling my cup of energy, and I love the way you gave the little analogy of the shooter cup, and as long as there's tequila in the shooter cup, it works, right? But if I'm not putting myself first and looking after myself first, then I'm going to end up like I'm feeling right now, which is shattered and no energy to give to everybody else who's important. And it is something that people fundamentally struggle with because I think we all believe that if we put ourselves first, we're selfish. We inherently are being selfish, which is not a bad thing. And to keep it real, I mean, there's probably people out there going, yeah, but Cindy, your business is doing well. And Grant, your business is doing well. You can step away from it. But people like us, if we get time back because our business is doing well, we go and do something else.
Exactly.
So we put our energy into something else. And you just have to listen to what you're doing. You can step away from your business because you've built it up over 30 years, which is the goal of being a business owner, right? Is to have other people assist you with running the business. So your time is free to go and do the things you love.
Yeah.
But it's not that we're just stepping away from our business. We're pouring it into something else.
Exactly.
So we've still got to be constantly managing that as well.
Yeah.
And I always remember, like, my dad was pretty good at it, actually. I was actually thinking of it on the drive up here. We'd get to January. Normally we'd have a last family holiday. And then in January, he'd get out his diary. And he'd plan his holidays for the year.
Yeah.
But I remember saying to him once, Dad, like, what are you doing? You've just had a holiday. And now you're thinking of holidays again.
Yeah.
And he said to me, my boy, if I don't do it now, I won't take a holiday for the rest of the year.
Exactly. So you put it first.
That's me.
Yeah.
I haven't learnt that lesson.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
I want to share something. At the beginning of the year, I started the year shattered. I lost both my parents end of last year. I was not okay. And you know when you have that sense of, I am not right, I'm not okay. So I started this year with a very, very clear intention of doing things that fill my cup. So I've got a happiness list and I've written down all the things that make me happy. One of them is travel. So this is random, but I think maybe it's a sign of how I work. I set a goal that I wanted to be away from the house for 75 nights this year.
I know you're always doing goals.
But
remember the one year you said to me, I'm not setting goals. And then you set a goal.
Exactly, to not set a goal. But so I'm on track. So by the end of the year, I will have been away 75 nights. And I know some people might say that's a weird goal, but if you set something in motion, if you've got it there, every week I go, what am I doing in order to make this work? Obviously, I set loads of other goals, business goals, accomplishment goals, but if you want to travel, set it as a goal. So so there's been a year of lots of travel, lots of things that fill my bucket, so that I can keep giving the world my gifts. And there's a saying, what the purpose in life is to find, or the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose in life is to give it away. But if you've got nothing in the tank, you've got nothing to give. So it's not selfish to practice self-care. It's imperative. It's essential. So I think people who think it's selfish, they are doing the world a disservice.
Yeah, and if you listen to what you were saying there as well, I always talk about like goal setting is all about what do you want.
Yeah.
So many people tell you what they don't want.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be fat. Whatever. You don't focus on what you don't want. You focus on what you want.
Yeah.
And for you to say, I want 75 nights away this year.
Yeah.
Good. Because now you'll go and build it into your schedule or your diary, whatever you want to call it, and you work around it.
Yeah.
If somebody says, I want to spend more time with my kids, you put the kids as priority number one into your diary and you work everything else around it. We've got enough time. We do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's all about giving time to the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
If someone says to you, I don't have enough time, it's not that.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of a story that Nick Jordan, actually,
Yes.
this happened with Nick Jordan. He's a friend of ours from the Entrepreneurs Organization. I was in my forum and I was talking about this struggle of giving time. And my little boy was probably about 7 years old. And at that age, he'd had one of my spare phones and all he wanted was this Monsters app, Monsters game, some Monsters game anyway. And I just moved house. I didn't have Wi-Fi at home. I was waiting for it. So I had to take his phone to the office to download this game for him. And I got home at night and there he is standing at the door, this cute little blonde kid, blue eyes. Daddy, did you download Monsters Legends or whatever it's called? I was like, oh, sorry, boy. I completely forgot about it. I'll do it tomorrow. Of course, the next day I take his phone to work. I get home. There he is waiting. Little, Daddy, did you download Monsters Legends?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd forgotten for the second night.
Yeah.
And I remember going into my forum and I brought this up going, I'm letting my child down.
Yeah.
And Nick said to me, the next time that happens, go home and don't tell your boy that you forgot to do it.
Yeah.
Tell him you didn't make him a priority in your day.
Big difference.
Wow. That hit me, eh?
Yeah.
And I did it the next day. So that's the thing is, what is important to you? Give that your time first. Then, if you run out of time, that's when the no's come in.
Yeah.
But you're not saying no to everything that's important to you.
Yeah.
You're saying no to the things that aren't as important. And if people spot the difference, as with you now saying no to free events where you might have done it in the past, it just means you've now recognized what's important to me and my boundaries now go up.
Exactly.
Whereas before I didn't have boundaries.
Yeah.
And when people look at that, they go, oh, you've changed. It's not that you've changed. It's just I was probably giving you too much.
Yes.
And not giving myself enough. And now my boundaries go up and that's self-respect.
It is. And I think when we realize our own self-worth, it's very easy to say, no, I won't do that thing for you. One of my sort of philosophies is don't buckle to cheeky requests. When somebody asks me to do something that I would never ask another person, that is a surefire sign to say no.
Yeah.
And some people are incredibly cheeky and they will ask for things that they have no right to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's boundary setting. That's just your understanding your worth, managing your time, managing your energy. Let's shift to the book.
Yes.
And we'll start with, I think, your first book, Unstoppable. What was the trigger to kind of get you to write a book?
So when I was 25, I had a mentor. His name was Andrew, and he was my mentor for probably about 4 or 5 years. And he was, there's a saying in the land of the blind, the one-eyed is king. And he just read so much. And he kind of seemed like an oracle of wisdom to somebody like me who didn't know to read business books and go to seminars. And he said there's a book in everyone. And I love reading. I love writing. I love the English language. I love languages. So when my company turned 20, I decided I was going to write a book on the 20 lessons I'd learned in 20 years. And then I kind of didn't like that title. Then I thought, well, what is something that's my thing? And I've got this mantra, I'm an unstoppable action taker. And I've used it for years. And I've said it, if I haven't said it a million times, I don't know, because I've said it repeatedly day in and day out, day in and day out. So I thought, well, let's share how to be unstoppable and achieve more in business and life. So it was literally 20 different chapters on different elements, like on leadership, on how to build a brand, how to make a difference, all different elements of things that I felt that I'd learned in my 20-year journey. So this was How to Be Unstoppable. It's a bestseller. It's sold, I don't know, maybe 15,000. I don't know. It's like an evergreen book. It's whenever I go somewhere, somebody wants it. Amazing. Or they go, I had a copy, I want to read it again.
Was it you that said to me that in South Africa, if you get to 5,000 books, it's a bestseller?
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
So that's what's always stuck in my mind. That's my goal with that.
Oh, I'm sure you must be there by now.
I'm 3.5, so I'm getting there.
Okay.
But I've always kept that in my mind, and I don't know if it's true. I did try and Google it, but Cindy said it, so it must be true.
Listen, I make up stats all the time.
And I mean, did it take you a long time to put it together?
No.
So for that person out there listening, going, I want to write a book. Like, well, how did you start?
Mark Twain had a saying. He says it's so easy to write a book. You just sit at a typewriter and allow yourself to bleed. But I think there's also a saying that's what's written after 6 a.m. shouldn't be read, and what's read after 6 a.m. shouldn't be written. And I think what I was doing when I wrote this book and the other one is I'd get up really early in the morning and write. So with Unstoppable, there were 20 chapters, and there were things on. So I had literally a folder with marketing, with leadership, with customer service, with time management, with all the different elements. And as a thought hit me, I would just literally scribble on a piece of paper and put it in each one. Or I'd see a quote that was one of my resonating, something that really resonated with me. So I would put one into each folder. And every morning, sometimes I would just sit and think of different things. Otherwise, I would take one chapter at a time. So that's how that book got born as such.
Yeah. And it's also it's a lifetime of content, really. It's your lifetime of content that goes into that. And that's what I found with this. When people say to me, how long did it take you to write the book? I said, well, 4 months of writing with a coach, but 7 years of content creation and probably 30 odd years of life experience, because it's all in there.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. That's what your mentor said. I actually mentioned it at the end of my book as well. It's like everybody has a story. Everyone has a story to share.
Yeah.
You've just got to be brave enough to do it.
Exactly.
But you're not just going to sit down and you've got to give some thought to structure and content. And a lot of your content will come from within, or maybe you'll have to go and research some stuff.
Yes, yeah.
But it's. I remember Douglas, what was his name? One of those professional speakers. I forget his surname now. He's one of the top speakers in South Africa. I'm forgetting his surname. He said he starts out on his phone.
Okay.
So whenever he has an idea, he goes to the notes section and he just starts collating and setting it out as a layout on his phone. And then over time, he'll take every single chapter or point and he'll just expand on it until he has a book.
Yeah.
And releasing it.
So
how did you feel once you've got it all in this content and in this format? How did you feel just before you're about to release it?
I was excited. I was excited. Obviously, there's that sense of trepidation. What if nobody likes this book, or what if it's terrible, or doesn't resonate with people? But I was proud of it because it was my best self. And I think you touched on something. A book, there's a bibliography, say, at the back of a book, but how do you include a conversation? So there's a throwaway comment from you. There's a nugget from a seminar I went to. I had a dinner with an amazing person, and something has, dropped into my sort of psyche and changed the way I think. So I think if you write a book on your life experiences, I don't even think it's possible to include a bibliography because you don't even know where you learned this thing.
Yeah.
You just know that it's something that you've believed for many years, and it might have come from this person or that person, or and also there's very few original ideas when it comes to books. And seminars, everyone's always talking from their own experience, which is based on every conversation they've had, thing they've listened to and read. So I think it's an amalgamation of so many different things. But I was excited when I launched it, and it was very much like a textbook, if I could say. It was. So I've had a lot of people say they've highlighted things, they go back to it. So it's very much an evergreen kind of book. The next book was more of a vulnerable look at myself behind the scenes.
And how did you find the difference in A, writing it, and B, releasing it?
So I think the second one, because it was more personal, more vulnerable, more authentic, I think I felt a little bit more vulnerable when it was released, because it was basically saying, yes, I've won these awards, but let me tell you the backstory. Yes, this thing worked out, but let me tell you the backstory. Because for me, I wanted to this was aimed at women, And Seth Godin always says, go for your smallest viable audience. And I worked out, well, I'm a businesswoman and I'm aiming it at women. So the cover's pink. There's a woman on the cover. So men aren't buying this book. And that was my intention. It was to aim it at people like me, women who feel like somebody else must be getting it all together because I'm not, And for me to say, listen, I know it looks like everything's together, but let me show you the backstory. And not for people to go, oh, poor you. It's more a case of identifying that, oh, it is messy. It's supposed to be messy. And I think what a lot of women do specifically is they pedestalize other women, which means they put themselves down. And I think life isn't about us looking up at other people thinking that, wow, I wish I was like them. It's actually not about that. It's about going, wow, this person, despite everything, got it together and did that. I'm also going through stuff. Yeah. I can also do it. So, yeah.
And it's a powerful, powerful target because, sure, if you just take the last 20 years, the impact that women have had in business, women are incredible business people.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen in my coaching and just in interacting with lots of incredible businesswomen, they are doing it with a huge sense of guilt. Huge sense of guilt of what they're walking away from to pursue business. And what I mean there is that generational thinking of the woman is there to look after the kids and stay at home, and that's what we saw our mothers doing and our grandmothers, and it's almost like unconsciously expected that we would do the same. But now the world has changed so much. We really need to have 2 income families, but a woman's place in the business world is so important. And as I said, they're really, really amazing. But there's a struggle of, while I'm at work, who's looking after my kids? That's my role as well, And I think a book like that would be amazing to assist women with this transition.
So, Grant, when you talk about guilt, there's literally, the word guilt is literally on every single page in this book, because I think it was one of my defining emotions as I raised my daughters. There's a saying that being a working mom is a combination of exhaustion and guilt. I would feel guilty leaving work slightly earlier than my staff, in the pre-COVID days when everyone was working 8 to 4:30 without any deviation from the norm. And I'd run to the daycare, arrive there, and often I'd be the last mum. And then my daughter would be looking at me and, I always joke, Hannah thought her name was Quickly until she was 3 years old, because it was quickly in the bath, quickly out the car, and she'd go, yes, mom. And I feel, I remember that feeling when she left matric. It was just this overwhelming sadness and regret, thinking, I wish I'd spent more time with her. So one thing I realized in my 40s, can you believe it, that actually being a mom was my job. I saw my job in work and business and my career as my job, and my children were there. So somehow had... it was another thing I did. But in my 40s, I got that realization, like, they are my job. So instead of feeling like, gosh, I have to do this with the kids, or it was, this is part of my job. So, I think I was a bit of a late bloomer when it came to understanding, all my responsibilities, because I think since 23, I've been incredibly career focused. So, my children arrived at 30 and 35, and by then I was full steam ahead in my career, and I kind of juggled both, probably very badly for a lot of the time.
That's a very Cindy Norcott response to that. We always, I said to you earlier, we sometimes are our harshest critics, but tell me a little bit about the achievements that your daughters have achieved in their lives. I think from the outside, they've been incredible. Yeah.
Grant, something defining happened when Hannah was 6 weeks old. I went to a parenting seminar by a psychologist, and he said, if you want confident, independent children, be a lazy parent. And that stuck with me. And I thought, I do. I want confident, independent daughters. And one of the things he said is, if they leave their jersey at home, you don't go to school and take it. If they leave their lunch, don't make their food for them, like their lunch and stuff like that. So, it's terrible. But since they were in like grade R, they made their own lunches. They knew that mom was busy. It was kind of, if they had a problem, call dad, because mom was always in a meeting. But I know it sounds harsh and it sounds uncaring, and it's not that at all. I absolutely adore my girls, but they knew that they had to look out for each other. And they also knew that Mom wasn't going to save them. They had to actually be organized. And as a result, they both have done incredible, things.
That's shaped their progression and their growth. Yeah.
They've always been massive overachievers. Drama, anything creative, music, singing, academics, leadership. So my oldest daughter, which is quite weird, she was incredibly bright. She was runner-up to Dux in Matric, having done 3 productions, starring in 3 productions as the lead for most of them. She managed to still, do really, really well. And she said, Mom, I want to go into theatre, musical theatre. And other people were saying, you're crazy. You've got to go into engineering, actuarial science, medicine, something like use that brain. And I even took her to career psychologists, and it was a no-brainer. It's like, I'm backing this kid. She's got the confidence. She's got the talent. She knows how to work hard. She's been, I've got a very strong work ethic. They know, they've seen hard work for their whole lives. So, and now she's with the Disney Corporation. So
really?
I'm very, very excited.
Here in South Africa?
Yes, in South Africa. And they're off to Monte Casino now.
Okay.
And then they're going to Abu Dhabi and Doha. She's in the magic box. And my little one, Lexi, is at varsity. She's doing business management at Stellenbosch, and she's got a thrifting business and a baking business. And she always says, Mom, help me. And I say, I'll use my connections. I'll market for you. I will connect you.
Yeah.
That's the help you're going to get. I'm not packing things. I'm not baking, but I will help you. And I'm helping them in my area of strength where I can add the most value. So, and I'm proud of them. They're amazing, confident, intelligent, smart, independent people. And, I'm very, it's probably one of my things I'm most proud of is my 2 daughters.
So tap yourself on the shoulder, tap yourself on the back. Our kids are all here to learn lessons from us.
Exactly.
And the lessons that they will learn will set them up for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing to hear how well they've done. Talk a little bit about vulnerabilities. I want to go back to that topic. I put a post up the other day actually on my social media. I remember the excitement of writing the book, and then just being overcome by this fear of, oh my gosh, exactly what you said.
Yeah.
What if nobody likes this book?
Yeah.
And being vulnerable is something that a lot of people are not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Again, in business, we're expected to be tough leaders and take no prisoners and not show weaknesses.
Yeah.
And certainly for a man, conditioning of males in general is you're the protector, you're the provider, you don't show weakness.
Yeah.
But there has been a movement over the last couple of generations with regards to the power of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
How do you find it in the work environment? What is that mix? I mean, obviously you were very vulnerable writing the book. You have to be because you've got to put your authentic self in there. How much of your authentic self are you prepared to show people in business versus this guard of strength that we need as leaders or business leaders?
I think for most of my life, my most defining quality has been an achievement gene. So I'm a massive overachiever. So I think for people who might not know me personally, they would just see the achievements and they see the strengths and the achievements, and they probably don't get to see the vulnerable side, the funny side, the quirky side, And so when I wrote this book, I wanted to put that across because I feel like we are in a space where people aren't impressed by your strengths anymore. And it's not about impressing people. It's about connecting with people. It's about sharing a journey, sharing your story. So I think just kind of showing people this is what I've been through. When I do my speeches, I really do speak from my heart. I speak from where I'm at. I've had a number of speeches this year where I've been in tears talking about what I've been through with the grief of losing my parents. So, it's been quite an interesting year. And I know somebody might go, gosh, that's unprofessional, but it's real. It is what it is.
As human beings, we all are connected.
Yeah.
And if I can see in you something that exists in me, I'm immediately, there's a connection. Now I'm listening.
Yeah.
So I've always believed, in fact, I went to a coach for speaking. I remember I went up to, it was a guy from America, and we had a 3-day session in a hotel in Joburg.
Yeah.
And on the first day, he was like, sure, Grant, I can see that you know how to speak. I don't know what I'm going to do with you for 3 days. However, let's talk about storytelling. No, he said storytelling.
Yes, yeah.
So you'll tell, like in every chapter of the book, there's a story.
Stories, yeah.
Every time I get up and speak, there's a story.
Yeah.
And even Rich Mulholland speaks about the story at the beginning, and the story has a meaning, and then you've got to share the meaning and how can they learn from that. But that ability to connect with another human being only comes if you take your guard down and you're prepared to show a weakness or show how you are human just like them.
Yeah.
And if you've done that in the book, the response you will get is huge.
Yeah.
But it's very scary. It's very scary.
Yeah.
Even in a coaching environment, I've always found that if I share a little bit about my challenge that's similar to yours, that the trust is then a lot stronger. There's a trust connection, and they're prepared to share a little bit more. And I think there's more power to vulnerability than showing the strength. So I agree with you 100%.
I always say that, if you want to impress people, give them facts and figures. But if you want to connect, use emotion, use humor, use laughter, use sadness. And I think people want to connect. They don't need to know more information. You can Google anything these days, And I think for me as a speaker, it's definitely about vulnerability. It is about sharing my story. And I think if anyone is a speaker, the first thing you need to do is be on the same page as everybody else. It means being vulnerable first. You can't wait for the audience to be vulnerable. The minute you can just share something personal about yourself and maybe something unpleasant and not attractive, something that's ugly, that's raw, that's horrible, that's happened to you, something, that wasn't easy. People go, oh my gosh, this person's human. And I think that's really, really important because, in any relationship in life, if you feel somebody's above you, you're not ever going to have a true relationship with them. It's going to be an uneven relationship. And I don't know about you, but I don't want fans. I want friends. I want connections. I don't need people who think I'm amazing but can't connect. I want people who go, geez, you're not amazing. You actually have all these crazy things about you. But geez, I really connect with you. I'd rather that, and it's not about a popularity contest. I think it's funny. Remember Caster Semenya spoke for the Entrepreneurs Organization and she said, not everybody's going to love me. I'm not money. And something I've realized probably only in recent years is you don't have to like me. I like me. And it's been a very liberating thought. And I don't know if it's something that happens when you hit your 50s, but I really feel that. So some people say, your style is a little bit, I'm probably not a typical professional speaker, often and ah and stuff, but I am speaking from the heart.
Notes? You take your notes.
You know what? I use the back of my to-do list.
I always knew that about you. Cindy would walk up with a piece of paper.
Yeah,
and
the piece of paper, but I don't use slides. And it's okay. And often I arrive at an event and I can see the organizer, like, they're quite underwhelmed. Like this little individual is standing here and I'll say, I'll be okay, and I believe in me, So, that's my encouragement to other people. It's like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the most professional. But if you've got a story, and everybody's got a story, got a story. There's a book in everyone. There's a speech in everyone. And I think so often people just don't give themselves permission to put themselves out there. I always say my first 200 speeches were my worst. I mean, I was really, really bad. I was that kid who couldn't say an oral in school. I just say it in the break time in front of my teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was that petrified of speaking. So it only happened as an adult,
Well, the thing with speaking is they always say if you know your contents, if you talk on content that you inherently know, that's never going to be a problem. So a lot of people come up to me and they say, oh, I hate speaking. And I go, funny, you're doing it now. You are. We're speaking.
Yes,
it's just now you're going to be speaking and keep it casual. So that's the thing is if you know your content, like you could probably stand up right now and speak about recruiting business. Yeah. You could speak for half an hour. Exactly. Everybody has that thing that they own, that passion, that they, or something that they love and they want to speak about. Just know your content well enough that if you had to stand up and give a 10-minute talk, you could just speak. Then you don't have to worry about, what did my notes say? And what was paragraph 3? Oh, I've missed out paragraph 2. Now I'm nervous. No one knows. Just get up and speak like we're speaking right now. It doesn't have to be staged or rehearsed. And if you can get to that, it's actually not as fearful as people make it out to be.
Yeah. I also think that I think when you do this kind of work, you get to know how to write your speeches or how to create a speech. And often I will have a speech marinating inside my mind for days before the event.
Yes.
And I'll prepare it the day before or 2 days before, depending on my time schedule. But often the morning of the speech, I'll wake up and rewrite it.
Change it. I'll do the same.
And often I'll walk into a room and go, I'll just add new notes. I'll just feel something different. So I think it's about trusting yourself and trusting everything that got you to the place you're at.
My worst is when the organizer says, please send me your slide deck 2 days before. And I'm like, I'm going to change it before then.
Exactly. Well, I don't have one, so I'm even worse.
But it's look, writing a book and then going through that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm about to be really, really vulnerable and I can't take it back. Once it's out there, there it is in black and white.
I know.
But then getting that response is hugely fulfilling as well. When somebody goes, oh, thank you for writing this.
Yeah.
And that's why I fundamentally believe that everybody who believes they have a story in them, and you do, should do this.
Yeah.
So just a few tips. I think one thing that you helped me a lot with is, I remember you said to me once, when I knew I wanted to write a book, I took every Wednesday off.
Yes.
And I did that for a while. I took Wednesday off, and I know we're fortunate, we business owners, we can do that. Not everyone can. But the message there is, allocate a period of time every single week. Yeah. Whether it's 2 or 3 hours on the weekend or late at night if you have to, or early in the morning, as Cindy said, you've got to dedicate the time to it, and then you do it religiously. Yeah. Every week or every second day, whatever it is in your schedule. That helped me a lot, actually. Was finding that time.
I have to tell you, the second book didn't work like the first. Yeah. So it was 2020 that I wrote it. I went to an event and a friend of mine was speaking and she said, I've just launched my second book. And I looked at her and I thought, you've launched your second book. I've just been so busy with COVID and so busy, I don't know, through Robinhood, we've been feeding people through my personal stuff. I did a lot of webinars. I did stuff with you as well, just trying to make a difference. But at the same time, I wasn't in a great headspace. Anyway, it had been like a year since I think COVID had hit. And so this friend had said, no, I've written this book. And I was so inspired. I drove home and I said to Lexi, my little one, I said, Lex, are you going off to do the journey with her school? She said, it's a 21-day journey. I said, when you come back, I'm going to have my book sent to the editor. She said, you've got to be crazy, Mom. You can't be doing that.
How many days?
It was 21 days. I had probably 500 words before that I'd written. 5,000 words that I had kind of put together, but in a very random assortment, So, and the one phrase that kept coming up is, you don't need more time, you need a deadline. And I think that's my encouragement to anyone who's writing. It's you're never going to find the time. You're never going to have a time where you've got all this like 4 weeks of nothing to do. So I think it's about setting a deadline. So I wrote feverishly, and the day she got back, the night before, I'd sent it through to my editor and said, here's the book. And he said, this is really the wrong way around. You should have consulted me first. And
is that Rob?
Rob, he's amazing.
The same guy. Yes. Thank you for that intro.
And he's such an awesome editor from Monk Media. But so what I'm saying is that, and there I just took like most mornings, I took big chunks of time every single day. And, I found that if you're writing from the heart, it's almost like meditation in a way, because I would look up and I think 4 hours have gone. 4 hours have gone. I haven't moved. So it definitely was something that I found, I don't want to say easy, but I knew what I wanted to say. And
once you start type, it actually flows.
Yes,
it just
exactly.
starts flowing.
Exactly.
I was the same though, and I was kind of stuttering. And I remember writing chapter 1 and going, "Oh my gosh, this is really good, but how am I going to go from? Where am I going to go from here?" And then I contacted Rob.
Yes.
And again, that's what he gave me. He gave me a deadline.
Yeah.
He said, "I've got to see your story from start to end, so you've got to write it.
Yeah.
But why don't we do a chapter a week?"
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
But we did it.
You made it happen.
10 chapters, took about 9 or 10 chapters. It took about 9 or 10 weeks to do that. But just having that deadline, knowing that I had to get him the chapter by the end of the week, I found the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's very pertinent what you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an incredible journey. I mean, and thank you, I guess. You inspired me. I mean, how many times did you say to me, Grant, you got a book in you, where's that book?
Exactly.
And I remember sitting at that dinner party once at Saskia's house with a mutual friend.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
And you were like, give us a date.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, July next year.
Yes, I remember that.
So I started in the January.
Yes.
I missed the July deadline.
Yeah.
But I think I'd done it by August,
Yes,
September, October, around there.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And thank you to everybody who you inspire. I think
thank you.
every time you get on stage, I always, if I'm in the audience, I get to hear the feedback from people. And I think the way that you do it is very amenable to people.
Oh, thank you.
You don't get up there and position yourself as this authority. You're up there as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think it's more powerful than anything.
Thank you, Grant. And I think I remember meeting a businessman a few years ago, and I said something about I'd written a book. And he looked at me and he said, "What made you think you could write a book?"
Jeez, really?
And I said, "What made me think I couldn't?"
Oh.
And I think that's the difference in people. Some people just don't back themselves. And that's my encouragement. If you think there's a book and you write it, and I know nobody's going to publish an unknown person, self-publish, even if you give it away to your best friends, but you've written your book, and I
100%.
think so often people feel it's got to be perfect. It's got to be, nothing's perfect. And even with this book, Rob said, if you wrote it over a much longer period of time, it would have been even better. And I said, Rob, it is good enough. It is good enough. And I think that was the message.
But also it's a comment from a human being like that can put so many people off.
Yeah.
And that's why in my book I go, block out the noise.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the opinion of others. You've got to know who you are. You've got to know what you want, and then go and get it. And if you're confident in that and who you are and what you want, then it doesn't matter about the opinion of others.
Yeah.
And I mean, the people listening out there, how many times has someone close to you, so a loved one, made a comment like that and put you off a dream?
Exactly. Yeah.
They might be protecting you, maybe, but don't let the opinion of another person influence what you want to do with your life. And you know where it comes from. I mean, you walk into a bookstore and you see books by famous people.
Yes, yes.
So that comment of what made you think that's not all books.
Yeah.
Those are the published books.
Yes, exactly.
We haven't been published.
No.
We published these ourselves.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want.
Exactly.
And then we just found a way. In fact, I think we've probably sold more books not being published.
Yeah.
Self-publishing
exactly.
is, and that's also a powerful message as now. With social media, the fact that you are a speaker, your book's always with you.
Exactly.
And I think you said it to me, it's the best form of business card.
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're thinking about writing a book, go for it. Know exactly what you want, know your story, break it down, and then find the time, issue the deadline, give yourself a deadline,
make the time,
and just make it happen.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I wanted to just share as well is if you are a speaker and you have a book, the one hand washes the other as such. So as a speaker, if you have a book, you have even more credibility, because a lot of people seem to have this illusion that if you're an author, you suddenly are such a credible human.
You're so clever. We're not,
which is
I
not
promise
true.
you, we're not.
But also the other thing is when you're speaking and you've got a book at the back of the room, it drives sales. So the one helps the other. And when you have a new book out, people want you to speak. So my encouragement to anyone who wants to either be a speaker or an author is just do the one, and the other one will probably follow as well.
Absolutely. That's great advice. But Cindy, thank you. I think we must end it. Where can people buy these still? Where do
they they're through my website. So just www.cindynorcott.co.za. It's very much online orders.
On there, okay.
Yeah, they can just connect with me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
If you want to connect with Cindy, you can do that as well. Obviously, Thoughtonomy is thoughtonomybook.co.za. And it's on all our social media as well.
Absolutely. And just a punt for your book, Grant. I mean, reading your book was like sitting having coffee with you. It was such an extension of who you are, and such practical wisdom, and just really, every chapter had something that you could implement in your life immediately. And I really, really enjoyed the book.
That's amazing. Thank you for the feedback.
I have heard so many people say, "Have you read the book?" And I'm like, "Of course I read the book. I was one of the first to buy it."
But
thank
you so much.
It's a great book, and I think I'd encourage anybody, if your whole sort of tagline, thinking for yourself in a world that wants to think for you. I think that's definitely a message as speakers we're always trying to put across is, there is always a different perspective in life, and the path least traveled is something that we always advocate. So follow your dreams, believe in yourself, and think for yourself, definitely.
Lovely way to finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Grant.
Grant.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm sure we'll probably do something like this again in the future.
I'd love to.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Goodbye,
Thanks so
everybody.
much.
Cheers. Thanks.